The model said, "I can't date him. He's too dark for my image." Then, the black waiter walked in. The camera flashes illuminated the pristine white studio as Scarlett Hayes struck her final pose for the Lumiere Cosmetics campaign. At 26, Scarlett was one of New York's most sought-after fashion models, with platinum blonde hair that cascaded perfectly down her shoulders, piercing blue eyes, and the kind of ethereal beauty that graced magazine covers worldwide. "Perfect, Scarlett. That's a wrap," called photographer Vincent Romano, lowering his camera with obvious satisfaction. "The client is going to love these shots." As Scarlett changed out of the designer gown she'd been modeling, her agent and best friend Madison Parker rushed over with barely contained excitement. "Scarlett, darling, I just got off the phone with Elite Fashion Week. They want you as their headline model for the spring collection." "That's incredible news," Scarlett replied, though her tone lacked the enthusiasm Madison expected. "What's the timeline?" 6 weeks of preparation, then the main event. But here's the interesting part. They want to pair you with Dante Williams for several of the romantic-themed shoots. Scarlett's expression immediately shifted to one of concern. "Dante Williams? The male model?" "Yes, he's incredibly popular right now. Very handsome, professional, great camera presence." "Madison, you know I can't work with him." "Why not? He's one of the top male models in the industry." Scarlett lowered her voice, glancing around the studio to make sure no one else was listening. "Because he's too dark for my image. My brand is about classic beauty, aspirational lifestyle, the kind of aesthetic that appeals to my core demographic." Madison looked shocked. "Scarlett, are you saying what I think you're saying?" "I'm saying that my career is built on a specific image that resonates with specific audiences. Dating or being romantically paired with someone like Dante could alienate my fan base." "Someone like Dante? You mean someone black?" "I mean someone whose image doesn't complement mine from a marketing perspective," Scarlett said defensively. "This isn't personal, Madison. It's business." Their conversation was overheard by makeup artist Zoe Chen, who had been quietly cleaning her brushes nearby. Zoe had worked with Scarlett for 2 years and had always found her professional but somewhat aloof when it came to personal relationships. "Scarlett," Zoe interjected gently, "Dante is one of the nicest, most talented people in this industry. Don't you think you're making assumptions?" "I'm making business decisions based on market research and brand positioning," Scarlett replied coolly. "My management team has very clear guidelines about image compatibility." Fashion photographer Vincent Romano approached their group, having overheard the tail end of the conversation. "Scarlett, if I may offer some perspective, the industry is evolving. Diversity isn't just politically correct anymore. It's what audiences actually want to see. Vincent, I appreciate your artistic vision, but I have to think about my career longevity. My look has a specific appeal that I can't compromise." "And what look is that exactly?" asked Naomi Foster, a fellow model who had just finished her own shoot. Naomi was mixed race and had built a successful career challenging exactly the kind of narrow beauty standards Scarlett seemed to embrace. Classic American beauty, the girl-next-door aesthetic that's been successful for generations. "You mean white," Naomi said bluntly. "I mean marketable to my target demographic." The tension in the room was becoming uncomfortable, and Madison quickly intervened. "Let's table this discussion for now. Scarlett, why don't we grab lunch and talk through the Fashion Week opportunity?" As they prepared to leave the studio, Scarlett felt defensive, but also slightly uneasy about the conversation. She'd built her career on careful image management and strategic positioning, but the reactions of her colleagues suggested that her approach might be more problematic than professional. "Where should we eat?" Madison asked as they exited the building onto Fifth Avenue. "Somewhere discreet. I don't want to be photographed looking anything less than perfect after that intense shoot." Madison suggested Bella Vista, an upscale Italian restaurant known for its private dining rooms and celebrity-friendly atmosphere. The restaurant was owned by Antonio Rossi, a former fashion industry executive who understood the unique needs of high-profile clients. "Perfect choice," Scarlett agreed. "We can discuss the Fashion Week situation without worrying about gossip columnists." As their taxi pulled up to Bella Vista, neither Scarlett nor Madison realized that their lunch conversation would lead to an encounter that would challenge everything Scarlett believed about image, attraction, and the true meaning of beauty. Bella Vista exuded the kind of understated elegance that attracted New York's fashion and entertainment elite. The warm lighting, intimate seating, and impeccable service created an atmosphere where celebrities could dine without the usual scrutiny of paparazzi and social media. Host manager Carlos Montenegro greeted Scarlett and Madison with the practiced discretion that had made Bella Vista a favorite among high-profile clients. "Ms. Hayes, Ms. Parker, welcome back. Your usual table in the private dining area?" "Perfect, Carlos. And could we have extra privacy today? We need to discuss some sensitive business matters." "Of course. Right this way." As they settled into their secluded booth, Scarlett felt her phone buzzing with notifications. Her social media manager, Jessica Wright, had posted the behind-the-scenes photos from that morning's shoot, and the response was overwhelmingly positive. "Look at these engagement numbers," Scarlett said, showing Madison her phone. 300,000 likes in 2 hours, and the comments are all about how classic and timeless I look. "Your fans do love the traditional glamour aesthetic," Madison acknowledged. "Exactly. This is why I can't risk compromising my brand with controversial pairing decisions." Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their waiter, and Scarlett looked up to see the most striking man she'd encountered in months. He was tall, probably 6'3", with dark brown skin, intelligent brown eyes, and the kind of confident presence that commanded attention without demanding it. "Good afternoon, ladies. I'm Isaiah Carter, and I'll be taking care of you today. Can I start you with something to drink?" Scarlett found herself momentarily speechless, struck not just by Isaiah's obvious attractiveness, but by something deeper, a warmth and intelligence that seemed to radiate from him naturally. "I'll have sparkling water with lime," Madison said, noticing Scarlett's unusual silence. "And for you, ma'am?" Isaiah asked Scarlett directly, his smile both professional and genuinely friendly. Sparkling water as well, please," Scarlett managed, feeling an unexpected flutter of nervousness. "Excellent choices. I'll give you a few minutes to review the menu, but I highly recommend today's special, the seafood risotto with locally sourced scallops." After Isaiah left to get their drinks, Madison stared at Scarlett with obvious amusement. "Well, that's interesting." "What's interesting?" "The way you just completely lost your composure around our very attractive black waiter." Scarlett felt heat rise in her cheeks. "I didn't lose my composure. I was just caught off guard." "Caught off guard by what? His professionalism? His obvious intelligence? Or maybe the fact that he's exactly the kind of man you just said was too dark for your image?" "Madison, don't be ridiculous." "I'm not being ridiculous. I'm being observant. You were practically speechless," which never happened. When Isaiah returned with their drinks, Scarlett found herself studying him more carefully. He moved with the kind of grace that suggested athletic ability, and when he spoke about the menu, his knowledge of the ingredients and preparation methods indicated either extensive training or genuine passion for food. "Have you decided on appetizers?" Isaiah asked. "What would you recommend?" Scarlett heard herself asking, though she rarely solicited food recommendations from waitstaff. "The burrata with heirloom tomatoes is exceptional. The cheese is made fresh this morning, and the tuna tartare is prepared with a citrus marinade that really brightens the fish." "You seem very knowledgeable about the kitchen's techniques," Madison observed. Isaiah smiled with obvious pride. "I've been working here for 8 months, but I've also been studying culinary arts. Understanding how dishes are prepared helps me better assist diners." "Studying culinary arts?" Scarlett asked with genuine curiosity. "At the Culinary Institute. I'm working toward my degree while gaining practical experience in restaurant service." After Isaiah left to place their order, Scarlett found herself thinking about their brief conversation. There was something compelling about his combination of ambition, professionalism, and obvious intelligence. "You're thinking about him," Madison said with a knowing smile. "I'm thinking about lunch. You're thinking about our waiter. And you're confused because he doesn't fit the narrow categories you've created for acceptable romantic interests." "Madison, I barely spoke to the man for 5 minutes. I'm hardly developing romantic feelings, but you're attracted to him." Scarlett was quiet for a moment, forced to acknowledge what she'd been trying to ignore. "He's striking, but attraction doesn't change professional realities." "What professional realities?" "The reality that my career is built on a specific image that resonates with specific audiences. Dating someone outside that image could damage my marketability, or it could make you more interesting, more relatable." more human than the perfect blonde stereotype you've been cultivating. Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of their appetizers, beautifully presented and clearly prepared, with the kind of attention to detail that Isaiah had described. "How is everything?" Isaiah asked, checking on their meal with genuine interest rather than mere professional obligation. "It's excellent," Scarlett replied. "You were right about the burrata. It's incredible. I'm glad you're enjoying it. The chef sources all our dairy from a small farm upstate that specializes in traditional Italian techniques. Do you spend much time learning about food sourcing and preparation?" Madison asked, clearly intrigued by Isaiah's knowledge. "Every chance I get. The culinary world is fascinating. It's part science, part art, part cultural history. Understanding how different ingredients and techniques create different experiences is endlessly interesting to me." As Isaiah continued explaining his passion for culinary arts, Scarlett found herself drawn to his enthusiasm and depth of knowledge. This wasn't someone working in food service as a temporary job. This was someone building a career in a field he genuinely loved. "Where do you see yourself in 5 years?" Scarlett asked, surprising herself with a personal question. "Ideally, I'd like to open my own restaurant, something that combines classical techniques with contemporary innovation, focusing on sustainable ingredients and accessible fine dining." Accessible fine dining? Great food shouldn't be exclusively for wealthy people. I want to create an environment where exceptional cuisine is available to people from all economic backgrounds. The passion in Isaiah's voice, as he described his goals, made Scarlett realize how shallow her own career motivations had become. When had she stopped caring about anything beyond image management and brand positioning? "That sounds like a wonderful goal," she said sincerely. "Thank you. It's ambitious, but I believe good food brings people together in ways that transcend social and economic barriers." After Isaiah left to check on other tables, Madison leaned forward with obvious intensity. "Scarlett, that man is remarkable. He seems very dedicated to his field. He's intelligent, passionate, articulate, and obviously cares about more than just personal success. Plus, he's incredibly attractive." "Madison, and you're attracted to him. I can see it in the way you're looking at him, the way you're asking personal questions, the way you're actually listening to his answers instead of just being politely dismissive." Scarlett glanced across the restaurant to where Isaiah was serving another table, moving with the same professional grace and obvious care for his customers' experience. "Even if I were attracted to him, it doesn't change anything. My career depends on maintaining a certain image. What if your career would be better served by challenging that image? What if audiences are ready for something more authentic than perfect blonde stereotypes? And what if they're not? What if taking that risk destroys everything I've worked for? Then maybe what you've worked for isn't worth keeping." The comment hit Scarlett harder than Madison had probably intended. For the first time in years, Scarlett found herself questioning whether her carefully constructed image was worth the limitations it imposed on her personal life. As their lunch continued, Scarlett became increasingly aware of Isaiah's presence in the restaurant, finding herself watching the way he interacted with other customers. Always professional, often warm, clearly taking genuine pride in providing excellent service. "I need to ask you something," Scarlett said to Madison as they finished their entrees. "What? Do you think I'm a good person?" Madison looked surprised by the question. "Of course you're a good person. Why are you asking?" "Because listening to Isaiah talk about using his success to help others makes me realize that I've been focused entirely on my own advancement. When did I stop caring about anything beyond my own career?" "Scarlett, success isn't selfish. You've worked incredibly hard to build your career. But what have I built it for? What am I contributing beyond perpetuating beauty standards that exclude most of the world?" As Isaiah approached their table with the dessert menu, Scarlett made an impulsive decision that would change the trajectory of her evening, and possibly her life. "Isaiah, this might be an unusual question, but what time do you finish work today?" He looked surprised but pleased by her inquiry. "I finish at 9 tonight. Why do you ask?" "I was wondering if you'd like to get coffee after your shift. I'd like to continue our conversation about sustainable dining and culinary innovation." Madison's eyes widened at Scarlett's boldness, while Isaiah smiled with obvious interest. "I'd enjoy that very much. There's a great coffee place called Luna's about 3 blocks from here. They stay open until midnight." "Perfect. I'll see you at Luna's around 9:15. "It's a date," Isaiah said, then immediately looked concerned about his choice of words. "I mean, it's a plan." A coffee plan. After he left, Madison stared at Scarlett with amazement. Did you just ask our waiter out? I asked him for coffee to discuss his career goals. You asked him for coffee because you're attracted to him and you want to get to know him better. Scarlett couldn't deny the truth in Madison's observation. For the first time in her career, she was allowing personal interest to override professional caution. Madison, what am I doing? You're taking a chance on something real instead of hiding behind image management and marketing strategies. And if it ruins my career, then maybe it's time to build a career worth having. As they prepared to leave Bella Vista, Scarlett realized she was more nervous about a simple coffee date than she'd been about major fashion shoots or magazine covers. But she was also more excited than she'd been about anything in months. Luna's Coffee was the kind of neighborhood establishment that attracted a diverse mix of students, artists, and working professionals, a stark contrast to the exclusive venues where Scarlett usually spent her evenings. The exposed brick walls, mismatched furniture, and general atmosphere of creative energy made her feel simultaneously out of place and oddly at home. Scarlett arrived at 9:10, having spent an hour changing clothes and questioning her decision. She'd finally settled on jeans and a sweater, casual attire that felt strange after years of carefully curated public appearances. Isaiah walked in at exactly 9:15, having changed from his work uniform into dark jeans and a button-down shirt that emphasized his athletic build and natural sense of style. You actually came, he said, approaching her table with a smile that suggested pleasant surprise. You sound like you expected me to change my mind. I thought there was a possibility. You seem like someone with a very structured schedule and carefully planned social activities. What makes you think that? Your assistant mentioned when making your lunch reservation that you typically dine at very specific types of establishments. Luna's probably isn't your usual scene. Scarlett looked around the eclectic coffee shop, taking in the poetry readings happening in one corner and the chess games being played near the windows. No, it's not. But maybe that's not a bad thing. As they settled in with their coffee, Ethiopian single origin for Isaiah, vanilla latte for Scarlett, she found herself genuinely curious about the man she'd impulsively asked to meet her. Tell me about your culinary school experience, she said. It's challenging but incredible. I'm learning techniques I never imagined, working with ingredients I'd never heard of, understanding how food can be both art and sustenance. What made you decide to pursue cooking professionally? Isaiah was quiet for a moment, considering his answer. Growing up, my grandmother was the person who held our family together, and she did it through cooking. Every Sunday, she'd make these elaborate meals that brought relatives, neighbors, friends. Everyone would gather around her table. That sounds wonderful. It was. But I also realized that food was her way of showing love, creating community, making people feel valued and welcomed. I want to do that on a larger scale. How so? I want to open a restaurant that serves exceptional food, but doesn't exclude people based on economic status. Great meals shouldn't be luxury experiences available only to wealthy people. Scarlett found herself moved by Isaiah's vision of using his professional success to serve others. That's very different from most business models in hospitality. Most business models in every industry prioritize profit over purpose. I want to build something that proves you can be financially successful while also creating genuine value for your community. What would that look like practically? A restaurant with a sliding scale pricing structure, community dinner events for families who can't afford fine dining, cooking classes for kids and adults who want to learn culinary skills. As Isaiah described his goals, Scarlett realized how shallow her own professional motivations had become. When had she stopped caring about contributing something meaningful to the world? Isaiah, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you ever feel like success requires compromising your values? Isaiah studied her face, clearly sensing the deeper meaning behind her question. Are you feeling that pressure in your career? I'm starting to wonder if the image I've built for myself is worth the limitations it creates in my personal life. What kind of limitations? Scarlett hesitated, then decided to be honest. Earlier today, I told my agent that I couldn't work with a black male model because he was too dark for my image. I said it would alienate my fan base and damage my marketability. Isaiah's expression didn't change, but she could see him processing her confession. And how do you feel about that now? Ashamed, confused, like maybe I've been building a career based on prejudices I didn't even realize I held. What changed your mind? Meeting you, talking to you, realizing that someone's character and intelligence matter more than how they might photograph with me for magazine covers. Isaiah reached across the table and gently touched her hand. Scarlett, growth requires acknowledging mistakes and choosing to do better. The fact that you're questioning those assumptions suggests you're ready to evolve. But what if evolving destroys my career? What if my audience doesn't want a more authentic version of me? Then maybe you need a different audience, or maybe you need to help your current audience evolve along with you. Their conversation was interrupted by Luna Rodriguez, the coffee shop owner, who approached their table with warm enthusiasm. Isaiah, how are your classes going? Really well, Luna. Thanks for asking. Luna, I'd like you to meet Scarlett. Scarlett, this is Luna Rodriguez. She owns this incredible place. Nice to meet you, Luna said, shaking Scarlett's hand. Any friend of Isaiah's is welcome here. This young man has been helping me develop new menu items for our evening service. You're working with the cafe on menu development? Scarlett asked Isaiah. Luna's interested in expanding beyond coffee and pastries to include light dinner options. We've been collaborating on recipes that use local, sustainable ingredients. And he's not charging me anything for his expertise, Luna added. Says he wants to help small businesses succeed. After Luna left to attend to other customers, Scarlett looked at Isaiah with growing admiration. You volunteer your culinary expertise to help local businesses? Luna gave me a place to study when I couldn't afford the library fees, and she never made me feel like I was taking up space just because I couldn't afford expensive drinks. Helping her menu is my way of saying thank you. That's remarkably generous. That's community. We help each other succeed. As their evening continued, Scarlett found herself sharing more about her own background than she'd intended. She talked about the pressure to maintain a perfect image, the isolation of celebrity life, and her growing sense that success without purpose felt increasingly hollow. Scarlett, what made you want to become a model originally? Honestly, the attention and validation. I was a pretty kid who got positive reinforcement for my appearance, and modeling seemed like a way to turn that into a career. And now I'm wondering if I've built an entire life around the most superficial aspects of who I am. What are the non-superficial aspects? Scarlett paused, realizing she hadn't thought about her deeper qualities in years. I used to be curious about people, interested in learning about different perspectives, excited about travel and cultural experiences. What happened to that curiosity? I think I traded it for image management and brand consistency. You could get it back. How? By making choices based on what interests you rather than what protects your image. Starting with simple decisions and building toward bigger ones, like having coffee with a waiter instead of networking at industry events. Like having coffee with someone who interests you regardless of their job title or social status. As the evening wound down and Luna's prepared to close, Scarlett found herself reluctant to end their conversation. Isaiah, I have a confession to make. What's that? I haven't enjoyed talking to someone this much in months, maybe years. Why do you think that is? Because you're interested in ideas and goals and making a positive impact. Most people in my social circle are only interested in status and appearance and professional advancement. Maybe you need a different social circle. Maybe I do. As they prepared to leave Luna's, Isaiah turned to Scarlett with a question that would challenge everything she thought she knew about appropriate relationships. Scarlett, would you be interested in spending more time together? Not as a networking opportunity or image management exercise, but because we enjoy each other's company. Scarlett felt her heart racing as she considered the implications of saying yes. Dating Isaiah would mean confronting her own prejudices, challenging her carefully constructed image, and potentially alienating the audience that had made her career possible. Yes, she said, surprising herself with the firmness of her decision. I'd like that very much. Even though I'm a waiter who's still in school and doesn't move in your professional circles? Especially because of that. You're the first person I've met in years who seems more interested in character than status. As Isaiah walked her to her taxi, Scarlett realized she was taking the biggest professional risk of her career, and she'd never felt more certain about anything in her life. Scarlett, yes? Thank you for seeing past the uniform to the person underneath. Thank you for showing me that there's more to life than image management. When Isaiah kissed her cheek goodnight, Scarlett felt something she hadn't experienced since her early modeling days, the excitement of not knowing what came next, but being eager to find out. How's this story hitting you so far? Tell us in the comments. If you're loving it, type 1. If not, Type 0. We want to know what you think. 2 weeks into her relationship with Isaiah, Scarlett found herself living a double life that was becoming increasingly difficult to maintain. Publicly, she continued her modeling career with the same polished perfection her audience expected. Privately, she was discovering aspects of herself she'd forgotten existed. Scarlett, the Valentino shoot is confirmed for Thursday, her assistant Rebecca Walsh announced during their weekly planning meeting. And Elite Fashion Week wants final confirmation about your availability for the spring campaign. What about the romantic pairing situation? Scarlett asked, referring to the Dante Williams collaboration she'd initially rejected. They're still hoping to pair you with Dante. The creative director thinks you two would create stunning visual chemistry. Scarlett felt conflicted as she considered the opportunity. 2 weeks ago, she would have automatically declined based on image concerns. Now, after getting to know Isaiah and confronting her own prejudices, she was questioning the assumptions that had guided her career decisions. "Tell them I'm interested in discussing the collaboration," she said, surprising Rebecca with her change of position. "Really? Last month you said." "Last month I was making decisions based on outdated thinking. I'd like to explore the creative possibilities." That evening, Scarlett met Isaiah at his apartment for dinner, a modest but comfortable space in Brooklyn that reflected his practical approach to life and his commitment to saving money for his restaurant goals. "Something smells incredible," Scarlett said, as Isaiah opened the door wearing an apron over his casual clothes. "I'm testing a new recipe for Luna's menu, braised short ribs with root vegetables and herbs from the community garden." Community garden? There's a group of us in the neighborhood who maintain raised beds for fresh produce. It keeps costs down and ensures we know exactly how our food was grown. As they ate dinner, Scarlett marveled at how Isaiah had created a gourmet meal using simple, affordable ingredients and techniques he'd learned at culinary school. "This is restaurant quality," she said genuinely. "That's the goal. I want to prove that exceptional food doesn't require expensive ingredients. It requires skill, creativity, and attention to detail." "Isaiah, I made a decision today that I want to run past you." "What's that?" "I agreed to consider working with Dante Williams on the Fashion Week campaign." Isaiah looked up from his plate with obvious interest. "Dante Williams? Wasn't he the model you initially rejected because he was too dark for your image?" Scarlett felt embarrassment at hearing her previous words repeated back to her. "Yes, and I realized now how horrible that reasoning was." "What changed your mind?" "You changed my mind. Getting to know you made me realize that I've been making professional decisions based on racist assumptions I didn't even acknowledge I held." "How do you feel about working with him now?" "Nervous, but excited. He's incredibly talented, and I think we could create something beautiful together if I can get past my own internalized prejudices." "That's growth, Scarlett. Real, meaningful growth." Their conversation was interrupted by Isaiah's neighbor and friend, musician Derek Thompson, who stopped by to borrow a kitchen timer. "Derek, I'd like you to meet Scarlett." "Scarlett, this is Derek. He's a jazz pianist who performs at venues around the city." "Nice to meet you," Derek said with genuine warmth. Isaiah mentioned he was seeing someone special. "He called me special?" Scarlett asked with obvious pleasure. "He said you were smart, beautiful, and challenging him to think about food in new ways." After Derek left, Scarlett turned to Isaiah with curiosity. "How am I challenging you to think about food in new ways?" "You're making me consider how food presentation affects perception, how visual appeal influences taste expectations, and how cultural assumptions shape dining experiences." "I'm doing that?" "Your modeling background gives you insights into visual composition and aesthetic appeal that most culinary students don't have. You've helped me understand that people eat with their eyes first." Scarlett felt pride at contributing something meaningful to Isaiah's education and goals. In her previous relationships, she'd been valued primarily for her appearance and social connections. This was the first time someone had appreciated her intellectual contributions. "Isaiah, I need to tell you something that might be difficult." "What?" "Dating you is probably going to cause problems for my career. My management team has very strong opinions about image compatibility, and my mother." She trailed off. "Your mother has strong opinions about interracial relationships?" "My mother has strong opinions about social status and appropriate partnerships. She believes I should only date men who enhance my professional standing." "And dating a waiter who's still in school doesn't enhance your professional standing?" not according to traditional measures of success. Isaiah was quiet for several moments, clearly processing the implications of what she was telling him. Scarlett, I don't want to be the reason your career suffers. If dating me creates professional problems. Stop. Isaiah, for the first time in years, I'm excited about something that has nothing to do with magazine covers or runway shows. I'm not going to give that up because some people disapprove. Are you sure? I'm sure that whatever professional consequences come from dating you are worth it for the personal happiness you bring into my life. And what if the consequences are more serious than you expect? Then I'll figure out how to build a different kind of career, one based on authenticity instead of image management. The next morning, Scarlett's confidence was tested when her agent Madison Parker called with alarming news. Scarlett, we need to talk. Immediately. What's wrong? Someone photographed you entering a building in Brooklyn last night. The tabloids are speculating about your mystery man, and my phone is ringing with questions about your dating life. Scarlett felt panic rising as she realized the implications. Who took the photos? Freelance paparazzi. They must have followed you from Manhattan. How bad is the coverage? It's not terrible yet, but it will be if they identify Isaiah and start digging into his background. Scarlett, dating a waiter is going to be very difficult to explain to clients who expect you to embody aspirational luxury. What if I don't want to embody aspirational luxury anymore? What do you mean? What if I want to embody something more authentic and relatable? Scarlett, authenticity doesn't pay for penthouse apartments and designer wardrobes. Your income depends on maintaining the image that made you successful. That afternoon, Scarlett received a call from her mother, Catherine Hayes, who had obviously seen the tabloid speculation. Scarlett Elizabeth Hayes, what is this nonsense about you dating some restaurant worker? Mother, his name is Isaiah Carter, and he's a wonderful man. A wonderful man who works in food service and lives in Brooklyn. Darling, have you lost your mind? I've found my mind. For the first time in years, I'm dating someone who values me for more than my appearance and connections. Scarlett, you have responsibilities to this family's reputation and your own career. You cannot throw away everything you've worked for because of some romantic infatuation. What if I've worked toward the wrong things? Then you work toward better things with a more appropriate partner. Someone who enhances your status instead of diminishing it. Someone white, you mean? I mean someone from your social circle who understands the demands of your career. That evening, Scarlett arrived at Isaiah's apartment visibly upset. He took one look at her expression and immediately offered comfort. Rough day? The tabloids found out about us. My agent is panicking. My mother is furious. And I'm starting to understand what professional consequences actually means. How are you feeling about all of that? Scared, angry, determined. Determined to do what? Determined to prove that love matters more than image management. Isaiah pulled her into his arms, and Scarlett felt some of her stress dissolve into the comfort of being with someone who valued her for who she truly was. Scarlett, whatever happens with your career, I want you to know that meeting you has changed my life in the best possible ways. How? You've shown me that success can be about more than personal achievement. Watching you challenge your own assumptions and choose growth over comfort has inspired me to think bigger about my own goals. What do you mean? I want to open a restaurant that doesn't just serve great food. I want to create a space that brings people together across social and economic boundaries, like what we're doing, but on a larger scale. A restaurant that proves love really can overcome prejudice. A restaurant that proves people are more alike than different, and that good food creates community regardless of background. As they held each other in Isaiah's modest apartment, both Scarlett and Isaiah understood that their relationship had become about more than romance. It had become proof that authenticity was worth any professional risk, and that love really could overcome social prejudices when both people were brave enough to choose each other over convention. The paparazzi photos of Scarlett entering Isaiah's Brooklyn apartment building made the covers of 3 major tabloids within 48 hours. The headlines ranged from curious, supermodel's secret romance, to deliberately inflammatory, high fashion, low standards. Scarlett sat in her Manhattan apartment reading the coverage, while her phone rang continuously with calls from reporters, colleagues, and family members demanding explanations. Model Scarlett Hayes has been spotted multiple times entering a modest Brooklyn apartment building sparking speculation about a romantic relationship that represents a dramatic departure from her usual high society dating patterns, read the lead article in Celebrity Weekly. The article went on to describe Isaiah as an unidentified food service worker and questioned whether Scarlett was rebelling against her privileged background or simply making poor personal choices that could damage her carefully constructed brand. Madison Parker arrived at Scarlett's apartment carrying multiple magazines and wearing the expression of someone managing a crisis. "Scarlett, we need to discuss damage control strategies." Damage control? 3 major clients have called asking about your new direction and whether it aligns with their brand values. The Lumiere Cosmetics people are particularly concerned about maintaining their aspirational luxury image. What are they suggesting? That you clarify the nature of your relationship with Isaiah, possibly positioning it as charity work or community outreach rather than romance. Scarlett felt anger building at the suggestion that her genuine feelings for Isaiah should be reframed as publicity stunts. "Madison, I'm not going to lie about my relationship to protect cosmetic companies from association with a working-class black man. Then you need to understand that some clients may choose to work with models who don't complicate their marketing messages. Then maybe I need different clients. Scarlett, be practical. You have contracts, financial obligations, a lifestyle that requires significant income. You can't just walk away from everything because of romantic feelings." Before Scarlett could respond, her doorman called to announce that Elite Fashion Week's creative director, Philippe Laurent, was requesting an immediate meeting. "Send him up," Scarlett said, knowing this conversation would determine the future of her most important professional opportunity. Philippe Laurent was a distinguished French designer who had built Elite Fashion Week into one of the industry's most prestigious events. His approval could make or break a model's career. "Scarlett, chérie, we need to discuss this situation with your personal life." "What about it, Philippe?" "The romantic pairing with Dante Williams was already controversial with some of our conservative sponsors. Now with these photographs of you dating this waiter. His name is Isaiah Carter, and he's pursuing his culinary degree while working to support himself. But the optics, chérie. Our sponsors pay for aspirational imagery, luxury lifestyle, the fantasy of exclusive beauty. And you think dating Isaiah damages that fantasy? I think dating across such obvious class and racial boundaries creates complications that luxury brands prefer to avoid." Scarlett felt something crystallize inside her as she listened to Philippe's carefully worded bigotry. "Philippe, are you asking me to choose between my career and my relationship? I am suggesting that certain choices have professional consequences that must be considered carefully. Then let me make this easy for both of us. I choose my relationship." Philippe looked shocked by her directness. "Scarlett, perhaps we should discuss this when emotions are less involved." "My emotions aren't the problem. The problem is an industry that thinks a woman's romantic choices should be dictated by marketing concerns and racial prejudices. This is not about race, chérie. This is about brand compatibility. It's about race, Philippe. It's about class. And it's about an industry that perpetuates harmful stereotypes while pretending to be progressive." After Philippe left, clearly frustrated by Scarlett's refusal to compromise, Madison turned to her friend with obvious concern. "Scarlett, what are you doing? You just essentially walked away from the biggest opportunity of your career." "I walked away from an opportunity that required me to betray someone I care about. For a man you've known for 3 weeks. For a man who's shown me what it means to live according to your values instead of other people's expectations." That evening, Scarlett arrived at Isaiah's apartment to find him cooking dinner with obvious stress. He'd clearly seen the tabloid coverage and understood the implications for her career. "Isaiah, we need to talk." "I know, Scarlett. I never wanted to be the reason your career suffered. If these publicity problems continue..." "Stop! Isaiah, I need to tell you what happened today." She described her conversations with Madison and Philippe, watching Isaiah's expression grow increasingly concerned as he understood the professional consequences she was facing. "Scarlett, you can't sacrifice your career for me. Modeling is everything you've worked toward. Modeling was everything I worked toward when I didn't know there were better things to work toward." "What do you mean?" "I mean that meeting you has shown me what I actually value. Intelligence, kindness, purpose, authenticity. None of those things require magazine covers or runway shows. But financial security, Professional achievement, the lifestyle you're accustomed to, can be rebuilt based on work that actually matters instead of perpetuating beauty standards that exclude most of the world. Isaiah pulled Scarlett into his arms, both of them understanding that their relationship had reached a turning point that would define both their futures. "Are you sure about this?" Isaiah asked. "Really, truly sure?" "I'm sure that I'd rather build something meaningful with you than maintain something hollow by myself." "What will you do professionally?" "I don't know yet, but I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll use my marketing experience to help businesses like yours, people who want to create positive social impact instead of just maximizing profit." "Scarlett, I love you. Not your image, not your career, not your social status. I love the woman who chose growth over comfort and authenticity over approval. I love you too, and I love the person I'm becoming when I'm with you." As they held each other in Isaiah's modest apartment, both Scarlett and Isaiah understood that they had chosen love over convention, authenticity over image, and each other over the opinions of people who valued status more than character. The decision would require rebuilding careers, confronting family disappointment, and creating a new life together based on shared values rather than social expectations. But for the first time in her adult life, Scarlett felt like she was living according to her own principles instead of other people's prejudices, and that felt worth any sacrifice. 6 months after choosing love over career convenience, Scarlett stood in the kitchen of Common Ground, the restaurant she and Isaiah had opened together in a diverse Brooklyn neighborhood. The space was everything Isaiah had dreamed of. Exceptional food at accessible prices, a sliding scale payment system for families in need, and a warm atmosphere that welcomed people from all backgrounds. "Order up," Isaiah called from the kitchen, where he worked as head chef while continuing his culinary education part-time. Scarlett managed the restaurant's marketing and community outreach, using her industry experience to create buzz for a business that prioritized social impact over maximum profit. She'd also begun modeling for smaller, more diverse brands that celebrated authenticity over exclusivity. Table 6 is asking about the story behind the restaurant's name. Their server, Angela Martinez, told Scarlett during the dinner rush. "Tell them it's about creating common ground between people who might not otherwise meet," Scarlett replied. "Food brings us together, regardless of background." The restaurant had become exactly what Isaiah had envisioned. A place where a hedge fund manager might sit next to a construction worker, where families saved for special occasions dined alongside others using their sliding scale payment options, and where the quality of conversation mattered more than the price of clothing. "Scarlett, there's someone here to see you," Angela announced, gesturing toward the front entrance. Scarlett looked up to see Dante Williams, the male model she'd once refused to work with, standing near the hostess station with obvious curiosity. "Dante, what brings you here?" "I heard about your restaurant from Philippe Laurent, of all people. He said you'd gone completely off the rails, and I needed to see what that meant." "And what do you think?" Dante looked around the bustling restaurant, taking in the diverse clientele, the warm atmosphere, and the obvious success of their venture. "I think you found something better than Fashion Week." "We found something more meaningful," Scarlett agreed. "Dante, I owe you an apology. When I refused to work with you last year, you were operating from prejudices you'd been taught to accept. The fact that you recognized those assumptions and chose to change speaks well of your character. Would you be interested in collaborating on something now? I'm working with some smaller brands that celebrate diversity and authenticity." "I'd love that. The industry needs more people who are willing to challenge narrow beauty standards." As the evening wound down and Common Ground's last customers lingered over dessert and conversation, Isaiah joined Scarlett in reviewing the day's success. "We served 180 people tonight, including 12 families using our sliding scale program," Isaiah reported with obvious satisfaction. "The community response has been incredible. We're booked solid through next month." "Any regrets about leaving the fashion world?" Isaiah asked, though he already knew the answer. "None. I love our life, I love our work, and I love building something that brings people together instead of excluding them." Their conversation was interrupted by Luna Rodriguez from the coffee shop where they'd first really gotten to know each other. She'd become a regular customer, an unofficial advisor for their business. "Another successful evening," Luna observed. "You two have created something special here." "We've created what we needed," Scarlett replied. "A place where love matters more than status, and where people are valued for who they are, rather than what they represent. As the restaurant closed and they prepared to head home to the apartment they now shared above the business, Scarlett and Isaiah reflected on how completely their lives had transformed since that first encounter at Bella Vista. "Do you ever think about what might have happened if I hadn't asked you for coffee that night?" Scarlett asked. "Never," Isaiah replied immediately, "because I think we were always meant to find each other and build something meaningful together, even though it meant challenging every assumption I had about appropriate relationships. Especially because of that, growth requires challenging assumptions, and love requires courage. Love requires choosing authenticity over approval, which is the most courageous thing anyone can do." As they turned off the lights in common ground and headed upstairs to their home, both Scarlett and Isaiah understood that their love story had become proof that character mattered more than class, that authenticity was more valuable than image, and that the most meaningful success came from using your talents to bring people together rather than keeping them apart. How's this story hitting you so far? Tell us in the comments. If you're loving it, type 1. If not, type 0. We want to know what you think. And it all started with a model who had to confront her own prejudices and a waiter who showed her that true worth had nothing to do with social status and everything to do with how you treated other people. Their restaurant thrived, their love deepened, and their community grew stronger because two people had been brave enough to choose each other over the opinions of those who valued status more than character.